Welcome back in. This segment of the Sports Source brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. The holidays are upon us, and so is another beautiful winter in the Smokies. If you're looking for a place to celebrate with family or friends, or if you just want to have your own mountain cabin in a winter wonderland, visit ParksideCabinRentals.com today. Dozens and dozens of cabins to choose from. Check out one of their newest ones. It's called City Bear. Search City Bear. See if that one's available. And don't forget, they've got great deals during the week, too, if you want to slide away Monday through Friday. Parkside Cabin Rentals. All right, media guys back in. We're just changing lines right now. Chuck, Jimmy, Josh, Bob. When we think of Tennessee's high-powered offense, at least when we think, I think most people agree with me, but yesterday I was talking to you, Bob. I said, well, even though you're down, with this offense, you can come back, you're quick strike, you're fast-paced, it shouldn't be an issue. And then I looked at some numbers last night after the game, and let me put this up here. I think this is interesting. Josh Heupel, 15-7 as Tennessee's head coach. In 11 of his 15 wins, Tennessee never trailed. They got off on the right foot, hot to go. 11-0, obviously, when you never trail, they don't have any losses when they've not trailed. But when Tennessee trailed by 10 or fewer in a game, 4-1. 4-1 when they've trailed by up to 10 points. When they have trailed by 11 or more points, they are 0-6. There's a certain level there where they don't come back from it. Pittsburgh last year led them by 14. Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia this year. It may be counter to what I'm thinking. So this could be a quirk, could mean nothing, or you could look at it and say, well, those kind of games when you're 2 touchdowns down like that, you get out of your rhythm, you can't do what you want to do. It's not a good comeback offense. That doesn't seem right to me, but I'm going to ask you, Bob Hodge, is there anything to take from that, or do you think, quirky stat?
No, I'm going to take something away from it, because when Tennessee got behind, and we were talking in the fourth quarter, and there's about 9 minutes to go, and you're still saying, okay, if you score here, you do this, you do that. And Tennessee kept running the ball. And I think they kept running the ball because their offense was so out of sync. They were trying to do something to find a fix. It was unlikely you were going to win, but you still had time. You go back to the start of the game, and we've talked about the mistakes they made, the penalties they got. They get behind the chains. That allowed the other team to get that 11-point lead. And so I think that does mean that this offense, I was like you. Hey, you're down 21. Shoot, doesn't matter. This offense can score in 2 minutes. But it doesn't seem like it works that way when you're having an off day. I kind of compare it to the Pittsburgh game a little bit. Your offense wasn't high flying and just running all over Pittsburgh earlier this season. So I think when it gets out of sync, it stays out of sync. And when the other team's ahead, that puts a little more out of syncness.
That stat about 11 points, that gets your attention, doesn't it? If you fall behind by 11 points, you don't come back. What you had out there?
Yeah.
I was talking to Sterling, I talked to Justin. To me, I think you beat Tennessee by taking away the deep ball. That's what really seems to get them going. They had 3 that were just overthrown, right? And Georgia, as Jimmy mentioned, they tackled really well. So, I mean, there is a blueprint, and you got to win the first quarter against Tennessee. That kind of gets them going.
Well, I go even far. You got to win first down against Tennessee.
First down.
But there's things you have to do.
If Tennessee doesn't have success on first down and get a good chunk, it throws them off schedule, and they don't get into their tempo. I mean, that first down is huge, and I think that's, toss that in with the fact that when they get behind by a certain level, they lose that tempo, and that tempo is what masks everything else. Agree or disagree with what we're saying here?
No, I agree, but there's also another thing I'm thinking about too, and I need to do some research. So they need to be good on first down, right?
Yeah.
How many times do they overcome a penalty on a drive? Didn't do it very well against Georgia, did they?
No.
Didn't overcome pre-snap penalties.
That's why we brought up penalties and special teams last week on this show, and our VFL scoffed. Some of them scoffed.
And I think, and Bob's sitting on this, if Tennessee gets behind by more than 10 and their offense isn't in sync in the first quarter and a half, how many times do you see them all of a sudden get in sync in the second half? Hadn't happened a lot.
Not a lot.
Florida last year, when they got behind them, they couldn't rally. They got behind Georgia. Georgia, they scored 17 last year. So it is interesting that this offense, if they don't have a decent start in the first few series, doesn't seem to click it in gear.
Yeah, now I haven't gone back and checked, didn't check last night Josh Heupel's record at UCF. I didn't go back and look
Right.
at Art Briles with this offense at Baylor. And this too, he's doing this right now with a team that isn't recruited to the level that he's eventually hoping to recruit
Right.
it to. I mean, he's still dealing with a roster that had a lot of guys leave here. So you got to factor that into it. But Josh, I'll finish with you. Do you take anything from that, or is that a fluky stat?
Well, just that there's probably a correlation to what we've talked about with the need to run the football. If you're down multiple scores, you're probably later on trying to throw another. We're trying to run yesterday, but they're down 3 scores when they're still trying to run in the second half. So it probably becomes more difficult to run like you want to, which is what's going to set up your passing game to have success when you need to come back. So Pitt last year, they almost won the game, right? And Ole Miss came down to the end. So it doesn't mean you're totally out of it, but it puts a lot more pressure, literally, probably from the defense.
I
on
think a
the
lot of
passing game.
people still underestimate the importance of running in this offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a running offense.
Well, going back to the numbers we showed earlier, I mean, if you're not running, you don't have the play action.
Yeah.
And most of you go back and look at most of their touchdown shots this year, most of them are play action passes based off that run. All right, when we come back, how will Tennessee's player handle such a disappointing loss? And can anyone follow the blueprint that Chuck just mentioned? Can anyone follow Georgia's game plan? We'll discuss that. Come on back.